Chapter 10 can be a little bit daunting. I think the endocrine system is something that we don't hear about a lot, so it can be something that seems kind of confusing at first. So the purpose of this video is to really just talk about the basics, the glands and the hormones. Nothing really in depth right here. I just want to skim the surface to give you a basic understanding. And then you can always go into chapter 10 and look through it yourself and kind of find out more about the actions of the hormones and so forth. But really, just to give you a background on the endocrine system, endocrinology is the study of hormones and endocrine organs. So these endocrine organs are the things that are secreting hormones. Right? Hormones can be several different things, but they're always a chemical messenger. It could be all kinds of different chemicals, but it's something that's delivering a message to another part of the body. Mostly hormones are released into the blood, and they travel in the bloodstream until they find their target, and each different hormone has its own target. We'll talk about that. And the hormone target is what receives that message and then goes through whichever body function that it's being told to do. So really, if you think of it like a postage system, you've got the sender, the message that's going, so that's the postal service, and then the recipient, which is the target, who reads that message and then follows through on the action. So here's one of the only pictures we'll show right now in this slideshow, and it shows all the different glands. So we've got everything from the top to the bottom. We have several different glands within the brain. So pineal gland, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and then we've got a couple that are kind of around your throat, around your trachea. That's the thyroid gland and the parathyroid glands. Thymus is towards your chest. And then we have these guys in your abdomen, the adrenal glands, pancreas, and then of course we have reproductive hormones that come from either ovaries or testes in males and females. So when we talk about an endocrine gland, it's anything that releases hormones. So there's no real ducts, and what I mean by that is there's no kind of channel that releases them. It's the hormone in general that releases, that seeps through these glands through diffusion. And if you remember what the word osmosis means, that's how you get in and out of the cell without having a direct opening and closing of a door or a gate. That's what's happening with hormones. And then we have several organs that contain endocrine tissue. So that means the examples here, pancreas, gonads, and placenta, they all have functions outside of the endocrine system, but they also function as endocrine glands. So they're kind of multifaceted in what they can do. All right, so hormones each have a mechanism of action, and sometimes they're vastly different. I'll let you look through this part on your own, but just remember that a hormone is something that is carrying a message to a different site. And those sites they're carrying to are target cells. And each hormone has its own target cell specificity, meaning that it's going to a specific place and nowhere else. Okay, so now that we kind of understand what a hormone is, let's talk about the organs that release them. We're going to talk about them in this order from kind of top down, if you think of it in the anatomical position. So pituitary gland is first. There's two lobes, a posterior and anterior. So we've got the anterior lobe and the posterior lobe. They're found within the skull, kind of at the base of the brain. They are responsible for several different hormones. Anterior first. There's 7 hormones that are released from the anterior pituitary. And honestly, depending on the text you're reading, they may say that there's 6 hormones, but we'll just go with 7. They are growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, gonadotropins, which is a group of 2. Gonadotropins include the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. Then we have prolactin and melanocyte stimulating hormone. So just from the sound of the names here, you can kind of understand where they might be going. For example, the thyroid stimulating hormone, its target is going to be the thyroid because it wants to stimulate the thyroid. Prolactin is going to help with producing milk in females, so that would target breast tissue and so forth. Sometimes it's really easy to tell what's happening, and sometimes the words are a little bit crazier, but at the end of this chapter I hope it makes more sense. Okay, I like using this diagram because it helps show that the endocrine system is really kind of a chain reaction. It's a chain of events. So for example, we're starting in the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus up here. This is an endocrine organ. It's going to release a hormone, the TRH, thyroid releasing hormone. So that hormone is going to target the anterior pituitary. Remember that the anterior pituitary is also an endocrine organ. So when that thyroid releasing hormone gets there, it's going to release its own hormone called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. The target, let's go back to that. The target for the TSH is the thyroid gland, right? Thyroid gland is another endocrine organ which is going to secrete another hormone. Thyroid hormones are secreted which go to the target cells. So it seems kind of complicated at first, but really it's just a chain of events. One thing leads to the next, to the next, to the next. And you'll find that this is a similar pattern for several different types of hormones. Okay, so we talked about the anterior pituitary. Now there's two more hormones that are released from the posterior pituitary. They're oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone. Again, the names kind of have to do with what they're sound like what they're doing. So oxytocin is going to help with uterine contraction and milk in pregnant females. An antidiuretic hormone, antidiuretic means without water, so it's going to help prevent swings in water balance. So it's going to help your kidneys decide how much water to hold on to and how much water should be excreted through urine. All right, next gland, thyroid gland, has two hormones that it releases. Calcitonin, which helps lower blood calcium, and thyroid hormone, which are going to help with your metabolism and maintain a balance of energy expenditure. The thyroid gland, it looks kind of like a butterfly. It sits right on your trachea. See the little butterfly shape here? And it has only those two hormones released, calcitonin and thyroid hormone. Okay, on top of this, we have the parathyroid hormone, and it only secretes parathyroid hormones. So let's look at that. On the back of the thyroid, you have these four little dots, yellow, 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 yellow. Those are the parathyroid glands, and they only secrete parathyroid hormone. All right, moving on, we have adrenal glands. Adrenal glands are found on your kidneys. There's two different parts that are dealing with the hormone release. That's the adrenal medulla, which is really kind of the middle part. Think M for middle. And the adrenal cortex is the outer side, the core. If you think of like the cortex of a bone is the outside, that's what the cortex of the adrenal glands is. The adrenal medulla is in charge of making epinephrine and norepinephrine. You've probably heard those terms before. The cortex is responsible for three different hormones. We have mineral corticoids, glucocorticoids, and androgens, which are the hormones that relate to the gonads. If you're looking at a kidney, the adrenal glands sit right on top. It looks kind of like a pyramid. The outside is the cortex, the inside is the medulla. Just make sure you know that they are secreting two different types of hormones. The pineal gland is very small. Its only product is melatonin, And melatonin helps to regulate your sleep patterns, and it also helps to tell your body what day and nighttime is and when you should and should not be sleeping. Okay, the other glands, the ones that have other functions but also work with the endocrine system. First one is that pancreas. It secretes glucagon and insulin. This is very important when we talk about diabetes. If this doesn't make sense to you, make sure you watch the other video that's posted in the announcement section about diabetes. It makes it much more clear to understand. We have the gonads and placenta. The ovaries, testes, and placenta are all going to produce their own hormones. Ovaries are mostly responsible for estrogen and progesterone. The testes are responsible for producing testosterone, and the placenta in pregnant females will secrete estrogen, progesterone, and a special hormone called HCG. And when you are testing for pregnancy, that's actually the hormone that you're testing for. If it's present, that means that the placenta is forming and that the woman is pregnant. The heart actually has some functions with the endocrine system. It produces an atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP, which is going to help decrease the blood volume, the blood pressure, and the sodium concentration in the blood. The GI tract has several different digestive functions, and we'll leave that alone for now. We'll talk more about that when we get to that chapter. The kidneys are responsible for erythropoietin, which produces red blood cells, calcitrol, which responds to the parathyroid hormone, and renin, which is going to do the opposite of what the ANP is doing from the heart. So it's going to, not opposite, it's going to respond to that decrease in blood pressure and blood volume. And so it's going to help to maintain that balance or homeostasis. Adipose tissue is another word for fat tissue. It produces leptin, which makes you feel like you're full after eating. Osteoblasts are from the bones. They produce osteoclastin that increases the insulin that's secreted in your body. The thymus is responsible for thymosin, which helps develop the T lymphocytes. Remember, the immune system is it's very important to the immune system to have these T lymphocytes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to fight off anything that's bad for you. So this is kind of a basic glands and hormones section for chapter 10. It would also be very beneficial for you to check out what's going on with the targets and the hormone functions. There's a chart in your book. If you page through chapter 10, you should find what hormones are coming from what glands and what target they are reaching. That should help figure this out. Again, I know it's kind of a foreign topic, so if it is confusing after this video and after looking through your book, feel free to reach out to me. I would be more than happy to email about it or talk over the phone or even meet in person. So let me know if you have any questions on this one. Thanks.